Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name's Sean Wilson, and I am the product marketing manager for Skype for Business, responsible for deployment and operations. I am going to be joined today by Lester Hewett, one of our esteemed colleagues. It's an architect within our CXD team within the product group. But first, I want to remind you, we have the Bing Pulse that you'll see the questions coming up on the right. You've also got Q&A Manager, and we've got we have Jamie and Ben actually managing those for us today. But I'm going to pass it over to Lester to kind of introduce himself before we get started.
Hey, thanks very much. So thanks everybody for taking the time to be with us today. My name is Lester Hewett. I'm Principal Customer Engineering Architect, and I'm one of the authors of the Skype Operations Framework, and I'm also the overall coordinator working across our teams to plan and to execute and deliver Skype Operations Framework. So very happy to be with you today to explain a bit more about what we've been up to and what we'll be doing and seeing from us over the coming week. Thanks, Bill.
Excellent. So let's take a little bit of a quick step back and set the stage for where Skype Operations Framework comes from, why we created it. We're going to walk through a little bit today, give you a little bit about what SOF is and where it came from. We're going to talk a little bit about its evolution today. Then we're going to talk about some of the key things. We're going to talk about business outcomes, right? And why business outcomes need to be the North Star for what your deployment is. That really drives to some of the key elements around preparing and assessing your network all the way through what operations looks like. Then we're also going to look at what some of the pieces that we've done within, or more Lester and his team have done within the ecosystem to make it more user friendly, as well as a little bit more tailored to what your environment or ecosystem looks like. And then we're going to talk a little bit about something that's coming up in just 3 short days. So the first one is, Lester, why don't you talk a little bit about the business outcomes and quality? Because when we originally did this, it was about, originally it was a very, very frantic moment to create a practical guidance and assets and tools and a whole bunch of stuff to really build a framework that hadn't existed for a cloud delivered service like this before. And you and your team went in and started right from the beginning. Can you give me a little background on what the motivations behind that were and what that looks like?
Yeah, of course. Thanks very much. So, yeah, I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. We were looking to build really useful practical guidance in a space that really was very nascent, didn't exist, which was how to help our customers and our partners be successful in their deployments to Skype for Business Online. And when we looked at this, so I'm not sure if we're showing the slide now, during the first one. So when we looked at this, we kind of thought about this from the point of view of actually, this is all around really delivering quality and delivering reliability. And why do we want to focus on quality and reliability? Well, it's because when people execute and consume a quality and reliable service, that they use it. They bring it into their daily business lives. They bring it in and they enhance their business processes. And it really underpins delivering the business outcomes that our customers are looking for when they deploy technology such as Skype for Business Online. So whether that's reaching out to their customers in a more interactive and proactive way, whether it's integrating with their partners, whether it's working across their kind of various spaces, it's all around making sure that we get people using this and people start to use it with quality and reliability. And to do that, really, there are kind of 3 main things that we came to realize that people need to think about. They need to start to think about understanding their own current environment, the places that people are going to be consuming these services from, and understanding and assessing and preparing to making sure that they're really ready for that they've thought about their networking environment, they've thought about their client environments, they've thought about some of the traffic flows, and they're kind of doing this with a really kind of switched on mindset, understanding what's currently there. They also need to think very carefully around, from a quality and reliability perspective, around adoption. So they've got these great services out there that they're really rock solid, they're working very well. It's what do they need to do to start end users get excited about this and start thinking about how they're going to start building this into their own day-to-day world. And it's also around realizing that actually, there are ongoing operational tasks that are required. And it's those ongoing operational tasks, it's understanding the key metrics, it is setting the bar for quality and reliability that make this so very key effectively from that point. So what we want to try and do with SoF over the last kind of 7 months is very much sort of refocus onto how we help customers and partners deliver quality and reliability, how they can understand which bits of the asset sets and frameworks we provided are relevant to them, and how they can tailor that experience more to their own environment. So really, yeah.
So let me kind of take a step. I'm sitting here listening to this, and it's kind of sounding like, from a much more non-technical standpoint, if I was going to go and host a dinner party for 100 people, I'm not just going to have a bunch of people show up. I'm going to have.
That might be an experience.
It might be an experience, and people will probably not ever come back to my house for a party. But what I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to understand how I'm going to accommodate those people. I'm then also going to have to understand my meal prep, my recipes, my being able to cook it for that number of people. But then I'm also going to have to make sure that they when they get there, they are able to get into the house, have a place to sit, right? And then at the same point is, how do I make sure everybody has that food? So even where we think of something as simple as a dinner party, you would do all those steps that we sometimes have kind of foregone in the technology world because we focused on the technology and it's about planning and deploying it rather than that full end-to-end experience involving users.
Totally agree, and that's what we've really tried to provide with the materials, is around looking at this from the lens of plan, deliver, and operate. So really thinking about what do you need to do up front to make sure this is going to be successful. What are you going to do on a kind of site by site, as you say, course by course, to use your analogy type perspective, and how do you make sure that we keep people happy through that kind of operate phase. And we know these are activities, and we know that some of these things that you said, people may have forgotten that they have these things to do. So we wanted to try and provide the practical guidance that really gives people that, how to do this, when to do this, who does the tasks. And it's really also backing that up with assets instead of training courses that we have on our Skype Academy that get people up to speed on doing this. But also, I think a key question we get asked many times is really who's SoF for? Is it just for partners? Is it just for customers? We're going to rotate it for our customers and our partners. We know there are some people who, to use an analogy, they want to cater their own party. They want to do this themselves. They're good at doing it. They like the challenge. They have the teams involved. And with other people who want to outsource the catering. They want someone else to do it for them. They want trusted professionals who've done this a number of times before to make sure they get that great outcome. And both of those analogies can leverage SoF. So we really wrote it for customers and for partners to get them to go and use this material.
So Lester, to that point is really depending on your comfort level as a company, or even resource or experiences, you might actually have the expertise in-house to really be able to consume SoF and use it and follow through it and have the PMO in place as well as the technical assets. But at the same point, you might not. And at that point, you would want to look to a key partner that understands and has worked through the Skype Operations Framework to really be able to offer the best possible solution for quality and deployment.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's also the sort of case where, remember, there's also the fast track services, that great remote guidance, but, depending on where you sit within that boundary of your confidence level in doing this, it's a case of working with fast track and partners to really find out that optimum blend for you as a customer, basically, where, effectively what we have is we have the customer understanding that the concept that we have provided by SoF with fast track and partners basically aligning with this to make sure that actually everybody's speaking the same language, they have the same taxonomy, they understand where they are in the process, and they understand when to start using these assets and run through them. So yeah, totally agree.
Excellent. So, so that kind of sets the stage really around, SoF and what we've created from a high level. I mean, we haven't gotten into any of the details, but what I want to talk a little bit to right now, and I'm going to talk to it and then want you to kind of paint the picture of your feedback that you've heard and how we've done it, but really is that evolution of Skype Operations Framework.
Yeah.
If we think about it at WPC, at Worldwide Partner Conference, in July, we launched Skype Operations Framework, and me being marketing, but really Lester and his team, and the entire team within the Skype team that was building it, really for 45 to 60 days, pulled together this entire framework that we focused on getting deployed in Greenfield. And it had a ton of assets, and it brought in a lot of great information to people. But one of the things that was identified early on, that this wasn't a one and done. It was very much a living and breathing product that was going to grow and evolve, not only as we added services, but also as we added scenarios. Tell us a little bit about that evolution and what that's looked like over the last, 5-6 months.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. So, you mentioned that we started off with WPC. We launched our what we call our get deployed customer journey. So those customers who are greenfield customers, or those customers who basically were maybe they had Skype for Business Online for instant messaging and presence only, but wanted to add conferencing and PSTN calling. So that's what we kind of came out the gate with at Worldwide Partner Conference in July. So then we kind of, as you said, it is a living, breathing framework. We listened to our customers and partners, look at our framework, and we built that into our next set of planning. So in September, we launched our cloud migration journey. So now this was more around helping those customers and partners who have an on-premises deployment of Link 2013 or Skype for Business, helping them plan, get ready for, and assess the kind of health of their current environment, and looking at what they needed to do to build the bridge into the cloud, and how to help them assess the right user groups to migrate, the right order to migrate, and help them really move into the cloud and do that in a way with kind of quality and reliability. So this has added in a lot more capabilities and a lot more information looking at their on-premises environment first to really help set up that type of piece up for success, and gave us our cloud migration journey. So in September, we were able to provide support both for the kind of the greenfield environments, and also really focusing in and doubling down on the support for our on-premises environment. So that's kind of the next evolution, and then kind of then from there, what we started to look at was, okay, well, we generated a lot of great assets, a lot of content, and we need to think about how do we make it a bit easier to consume. We had people with some interesting feedback from a number of people, which was really great to receive. People had dug into this, they'd looked at this, and they said, well, how do we make this a little bit easier to get under the covers of, and what do we work to really start to understand this and be able to have a kind of bite-sized version of this, and maybe a version of this that could be tailored a little bit closer to the size of my organization. So one of the things that we looked at, and really strongly sort of recommend that people go and have a look at this deck, is we started to turn this around and say, okay, well, rather than looking at the journeys themselves, let's look a little bit more at the outcome. So let's look at, what do we get from going through plan? What are the key things that we would expect an organization to achieve to go through plan and deliver successful quality and reliability? So, in a nutshell, we're looking at that really, really key consensus between our stakeholders, our teams, and our delivery environments to understand, what really is there on the ground. What is the architecture that we're going to be looking at? What are the preparations we need to do? So very, very simple, high-level pieces that run from there. Then from a delivery perspective, we looked at, well, what do we need to do? I'll look at this on a site-by-site basis, make sure operations is ready. And then really from an operations perspective, the outcomes we're looking for is how do we underpin that return on investment, those business outcomes. So looking at it at a much higher level, and then also potentially be able to break it down into individual stages. And there's a great deck. It's been launched as part of Stop Outcome. I think Sean will show it to us a little bit, and where you can download that from. So really encourage you to have a look at that. And it's really describing Stop in 6 slides, which was a challenge for us to create and set up. But really love to get your feedback and having a look through that once we get a chance to digest some of that.
You mean the fact that in our first release we had 65 assets, and the second one we had an additional 60. So you consolidated all that and the outcomes into 6 slides. That's pretty impressive. Yep. One of the things that I'm sitting here and I'm consuming this, and this is a lot of really good information. And one of the things we're going to do in just a moment is we're going to actually pop into the actual site, the new site, and what we've done. And I'm going to kind of take it from the perspective of, hey, if you're somebody new, this is what you're going to walk through. And we'll do a little bit of choreography on that, and we can talk back and forth on it. The one thing, though, that I think back is if I'm a customer and I sort of started my journey on, I'm hybrid, I've done the split domain, don't really know about where to move users, am I going to have to start all over, or is this something that really is just that helps me springboard to make sure that from here on forward I'm successful?
So I think in a way that's where the outcomes deck is probably going to be very useful, because you can start to look at your own deployment, start to look at the outcomes, and there's kind of 4 or 5 of them per stage, and they're very much non-technical. They're more kind of project related. Start to look at which ones do you self-assess that you've achieved. And if you've achieved them, great, then move on to the next bit. And you start to look at potentially, if you start to look at an outcome and you go, hey, that's great. So the network assessment bit, I understand that what we're saying you need to make sure that your network is assessed and ready. How do I do that? If you get to a point where there's an outcome that you basically want some assistance with, then we have the soft assets underneath that to really help you execute those. So yeah, I would suggest, at this point, take the outcomes deck, and review that, read that through, look at them, and sort of always give yourself a kind of, mark your homework against that, see where you are, and then you can dig into SOF underneath that, basically join into the interactive guide we'll talk about in a little bit, to work out which of the assets you might want to land with. And we will do more around this as we go through to really sort of help people have a bit more of a more formal gap analysis. But we had people use the outcomes deck for that so far and got some pretty good feedback that it's worked out well for that.
One of the big pieces of feedback that I've gotten dealing with partners and customers and just the community in general is one of the things that everybody's been probably the most receptive to is we didn't just provide them with guidance and walked away. We provided them with guidance and then also gave them a full, and by full I mean a lot of training opportunities to not only learn how to consume and deliver this, but best practices and really making sure that it wasn't just, hey, we're going to deliver this and you can join it, but continually iterating on it as well. One of the things that I see is that because it's available and on demand, people are able to consume it when they want to and when they need it. So just as you said, somebody at the network assessment level, they start to go in and do consume some of the assets and they're like, wait, I need more on this. They can then go and join and register to on-demand video those training sessions that are available in the Academy on the Skype Operations Framework site. We'll talk a little bit more about training because there's something really awesome coming up next week we'll talk a little bit about later. But Lester, I think it's probably a good time that we kind of transition to the site. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's take people through that kind of like, I'm new to SOF. Where do I start? How do I get to grips with this? And let's look at some of the investments that we have delivered over the pipe. Really, it was a kind of early Christmas present, if you like. Some of this new stuff was delivered on the 19th of January. We just couldn't wait till the 25th, so we thought, let's get it out there early.
I think you mean December, because that would have been Christmas.
Oh, yes, it was December. Yeah, sorry. December the 19th. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the site. I'm going to kind of walk through it as, hey, I'm new to this. I'm going to come in. There's a lot to look at on this site when you first go to skypeoperationsframework.com.
Yep.
And one of the things with that is that it gives me a great overview. I can figure out what is Skype Operations Framework. I've got where that Learn It tab, I can learn about it. I can give feedback. It can show me some of the partners that have done it, right? Yep. All this is in this site. But really the core to this is, hey, what do I need to consume today, right? Yep. And so tell me a little bit about how this evolution has gotten us to here and what somebody might experience.
So again, where we have spent a fair amount of time is thinking about that initial experience, trying to make SOF a little bit more discoverable so that you can discover it at your own pace and you can start to basically dig into it as you see fit. So one of the things that we've added on the front page, and we spent a fair amount of time enhancing 2 or 3 weeks ago, is the nice bright blue get started button. So I don't know whether we want to start there then, Sean. Let's see if people can have a little walk through that with us. So what Get Started is doing is really starting off and saying, hey, if this is the first time you've been to the SOF site, we'd love you to start here, because this is going to start your tailored experience. Start a little bit about how do I consume the SOF asset based on what's important to me, rather than basically a kind of preset menu type piece.
And to that point, we literally just got a question come in and said, hey, SOF is a lot, and lot was in all caps. And it can be daunting for smaller customers. Somebody's asking, are there plans to trim it down? I think actually what we're going to talk to now is really that feedback and evolution that we really are listening to what customers are asking for.
Yep.
So let's kind of walk through what this scenario. I'm gonna say existing on-premise and hybrid, namely because most of the people that are on this call either are in hybrid or on-prem. Some have online, but mostly because that's really what we launched in the second round after we did our first of get deployed.
Yep, exactly, the cloud migration piece. Yeah, so let's choose an existing on-premise.
Okay.
And here you're seeing starting, so the next screen, hopefully in the quick start, you're seeing where we have thought about how do we tailor this experience. So we sort of spent a bit of time talking to a number of our colleagues in marketing and delivery to say, okay, if we were to create kind of 3 sort of standardized customer environments and tailor soft to those standardized customer environments, what might that look like? So we started with these 3 types. We started with a customer who maybe they're a customer, they're nice size, few hundred users based in one building. They've got one building in a region. They may have people remote, maybe out and about, milking customers, but most of the users are in one building. So we looked at, well, what would it look like from a soft perspective for that kind of single building customer? Then we thought about the next type of customer, which is a customer where maybe they're in one region, they're in the Americas, they're in Europe, they're in APAC, and they've got multiple offices within that region. So they're up in the complexity, they've got a slightly different level of IT capability and team structure. And then the sort of third but larger one was those multinational organizations where they've got offices in multiple countries. And we started to say, okay, well, can we tailor the soft journey? Can we look at the number of activities and the durations and the time it takes to do that based on those 3 customer types? And that's what we've done, is we've given you the ability to really have a little bit of a kind of a look-see. So if you think, hey, I'm somewhere between a single site and a multi-site in the region, you can choose either option and start to have a look at the differences that we recommend in soft. So we're very much giving you a nice tailored experience. So I don't know if you want to choose the kind of the middle option there, then,
Sure.
Sean.
Now, one of the things here to also understand that I wanted to make sure people understand is that different types of deployments will also extend how long it's going to take you, correct?
Yeah.
Right? So if I have a single site and I just have to do my network assessment for that site, it's very different than if I have 107 sites around the world that some are on the WAN, some are connected over the internet, some are in all different regions. It's a very different level of complexity, which is why we've kind of tailored this site to really give people what they need, right?
Yep. So what we're doing then is we're saying to people that basically we're going to take them to an interactive guide now. So we're very much a more kind of start the exploration of soft at your pace. So if you'd like to click get started from there. And that's going to take us to our new interactive guide. So this is something that we launched just two and a half weeks ago. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to look at a kind of week by week basis of what exactly needs to be done. Now, if you'd like to sort of, let's start with that first block, the initiate, the kind of project block right at the beginning. If you were to click on that block, what it's allowing us to do basically is it comes up and it tells us, well, what do we do in project initiation? What's the outcome of project initiation? What do we want to get out of doing it? This kind of so what aspect, if you like. Who needs to take part, and necessarily what are the various documents inside there? And one of the things I kind of look at from this point of view as well is if we close that little box down, then we see that on the right hand side we've got like a picker. We can look at different customer sites a little bit higher up, so we can look at the single site, the multiple site, and the things we can start to do is if we choose different customer sites, we can see how we rearrange some of those activities over the timescales. And we also change the durations of the activities because we know that doing some of these things for a smaller company will take a shorter amount of time.
Oh, excellent. So in the case of like project initiation discussion, if I'm a small 250 person site company, that my project initiation discussion is going to be much shorter than if I have to discuss, hey, by the way, we're going to have to figure out our challenges around regulatory or around network or around whatever. That's going to be a different conversation, right?
It is, but the key point around this is whether you're a sort of 250 user customer, a 250, 2,500 or 25,000 seat or up customer, think about the outcomes. When you do your envisioning, you still need to come up with, what's the plan? What are we going to do? What are we signing up to here? About effectively, what are the capabilities that we want to instantiate? What do we have on the ground that we need to take care of? What is the design going to look like? And also, what preparation do we want to do? Now that discussion with a smaller, less complex customer, it still has the same outcomes, but it's probably a shorter discussion, less complexity. When you go into a multinational organization, there's a whole lot of additional pieces you layer on top of that. It takes longer. There's more people involved. So the outcomes are very, very similar. You need to have a plan. You need to have a common vision. What we're trying to say basically is that the time it takes to get them will obviously flex based on your environment, but there's still very similar outcomes.
Vary, right?
Yeah. So this what we're trying to do with this interactive guide is really give people the ability to kind of slice this and dice this however they want to, looking at different sizes of customers. Also, they can slice it by phase or by timeline. And the idea behind this is that effectively, then you can go at your own pace. You can start to work through these boxes. The training for those is obviously also highlighted on the right-hand side. So just as we think about the just-in-time training, there are organizations that will look at this on a week-by-week basis and what do I need to do in week one? What are those outcomes I'm looking for? What are the activities I need to take place? And really look at that as guiding their journey through the Skype Operations Framework, rather than necessarily having to kind of, to do that in a kind of more offline manner.
Excellent. Well, I think right now, why don't we talk a little bit about what's coming and what's new. You're getting a little sneak peek today because I cornered Lester 3 days before the next release of SOF and what we're doing there. And so I'm going to let Lester talk a little bit about what we're bringing up early next week, and we'll talk to you a little bit about what we want you to do. But one of the things, though, that is really important is to understand as we continue to build out Skype Operations Framework, there are a couple key things. When you hit that Skype Operations Framework page, there is a give feedback section. We want that feedback. That feedback is vital for us to continue to grow. But one of the other pieces to this is also to ensure that you are following the training that you need to do, either as a partner and build up that practice, become a SOF aligned, SOF certified partner, or if you are a large company that wants to really be able to dive in and do your own projects and you've got your own PMO, then that's key for you to be able to consume all this content, and we make it available to you for free. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's new, Lester, and
okay.
We'll go over to the slide and let you kind of talk to what's coming.
Yeah, so things that we just want to also highlight some of the things that we shipped just in late December as well, because that's kind of new since the last time we talked as well, just to make sure that we cover those off. One of the things that also drives the work that we do in the Skype Operations Framework is obviously updates to Skype for Business Online, the service itself. So as part of the kind of release that we did just in end of December, we covered off some of the new capabilities for things like meeting migration service. So what are the practical guidance around that? How are you going to plan for regionally hosted meetings? The planning needs to start now, so you're ready basically for that service being available so you can select it. And what do you need to think about around Skype room systems? So we spent a fair amount of time working through the SOF assets, and we're very clear not to really extend SOF. We wanted to try and incorporate these new service capabilities that as you're going through the standard workshops and approaches, we give you the ability to talk about those and think about those as well. So, there are the product updates that basically we have just shipped in December. And as we work through and as we get new product into the service, you'll see more and more of this type of activity shipping over the next quarter. The other thing that we're doing, which we're really super excited about, which is the kind of main port that we're launching on Monday, so on the 16th of January, sorry, is the what we call the kind of the kind of quality user experience set of assets and releases. So really helping you to understand what are the key metrics to measure to really ensure that your users are getting quality and reliability. How do you set yourself up for success with that? How do you set up the operational teams for success? Really get a good understanding of the key roles that you need, who are the names in the frame, what are the tasks that they're running to really help you along. And then looking really at a number of additional great videos that we're launching that really help you become a real master at, called Quality Dashboard, how to really understand that. So really nice, snackable material that you can kind of undertake and work through. So we're really excited about that stuff.
So to add to that, it sounds like you're going to really make the big piece that a lot of people forget about is, and this has existed in the traditional on-prem with partner deployed solutions, is plan and deliver, or back then was deploy, now is deliver. Really, those were always core assets that always happened. What ended up leaving customers shy was that operate phase, right? Which is really, honestly, being a former IT practitioner that ran Link for us internally on-prem for, hundreds of thousands of users, I get it. But one of the things that was there was being able to take the true operate assets and making those available for our customers. And that's really where SOF goes the extra mile. It's not just about a TechNet article that says this is how you do stuff. It's really the practical guidance on how to operate efficiently. And it sounds like this is our real big operate uplift that we're delivering for our customers.
Yeah, but it's also, I think it's also covering things like planning for operations as well, Sean. So making sure that people are starting to think about this early. And one of the things that we have really stressing as part of the kind of outcomes approach is that, you know, the operational aspects need to be in play, ready for the first site. You know, this isn't something, to your point, you bolt on afterwards. You know, those first users onto the service are absolutely critical. I mean, they're the people that basically want to have a fantastic experience. We want all the operational teams up and ready and running, so making sure that they are getting quality and reliability, and they're acting basically, acting on that point. So, you know, we spend a lot of time. One of the things and the fantastic assets that we really are super excited about getting into your hands is something called the kind of managed quality and high availability service delivery playbook. So it's a playbook really taking you through the things that you need to know, so how to use some of the tools, and really kind of spending time explaining how to use core quality dashboards. We've added some new templates that are going to make it hopefully easier for people to use that tool to be able to identify media issues and start to work out some really nice remediation plans. Now, you know, the really exciting thing about this is that I'm just have the opportunity to provide an overview, but you know, one of the things that we'd love you to do is to go to the SOF Academy site and register for the training. There's an overview training which goes into a bit more detail on Tuesday, and then we have basically follow-on trainings on the 18th and 19th that really take you through some of these new assets by the people who wrote them in depth. So encourage you to sign up to those, and hopefully be really looking forward to hearing your feedback. You know, a lot of these assets are ones that our teams have been out working in the field in with the last couple of months, really kind of road testing, working with our own customers on helping them to deliver and manage reliability and quality. So really excited about getting this into your hands.
You know, back to that point, and we've gotten great feedback on Operate and a lot of interest, and we really, one of the things that we want to make sure is that the very basic element to this is making sure you consume the soft stuff. But one of the things that's also important is in that top right corner, there is a link there, and that link will take you actually to the Skype Operations Framework Academy to sign up for the training on Monday. The reason that this is important is because as we take those next steps and we continue to evolve, the more that you're involved with this framework and the practical guidance and the tools and assets, the better they become. If you think about it as going back to me and analogies, if you go back to looking at it like a football team, go Hawks this weekend, can't wait. If you think about it from a football team perspective, if they just went out with their natural abilities that they came with, and they went and they didn't actually try to adjust their playbook or how they were going to address and attack their next opponent, then they're not going to continue to grow and evolve. And it's the same thing that happens not only with your operational excellence, but also with what we're delivering, either with the call quality dashboard and some of the new templates in there that have been actually bred from live breathing, like active customers that we're doing remediation on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, those pieces that are core for you and us to be successful is that is a constant loop of feedback and information, as well also to kind of drive some information back into that group so that maybe they need to tailor something a little bit more differently. So going back to Lester to kind of to any final closing thoughts you have before we wrap up today.
I think just again to say thanks very much everybody for your time, and you know, my call to action is please register for the training on Monday the 16th of January. We basically early morning US time we will launch all the new assets. So I know sometimes it can be a holiday in the US, but you know, when you're back at work on Tuesday, we'd love you to start downloading that from the US. Everybody else in the rest of the world, please you know, feel free to download as soon as you get hold of it, and again, start to use it, get your feedback, talk to your partners, talk to your account teams, and you know, we're really pleased that you're you know, using SOF and using Skype Business Online. So thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks, Dawn, for hosting us.
Thank you, and thank you, Lester, for taking the time. I know, by the way, if you don't You obviously probably picked it up from his accent, but if you don't know, it's actually the evening. So we are between him and his Friday evening. So I appreciate him taking the time to talk to us tonight from his side. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for joining us. This is actually one of my near and dear topics that sits closest to my heart. So one of the things I'm going to point you to is in the last couple minutes, go check out Skype Operations Framework.com. As well, our next episode is going to be on our newest advanced analytics in 2 weeks. And Jamie and I will be here to talk more about what that looks like. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend and go Hawks.